Sporty greetings to all our Basketball Africa League fans. I'm VOA Sonny Young, coming to you from Studio 10 at our Voice of America headquarters here in Washington, D.C. Thank you for joining us for this special VOA Basketball Africa League podcast. I'm joined here in studio by VOA super producer, Muqbil Yabarow.
Sporty greetings to all our Voice of America listeners. We are in Studio 10 and we are excited to bring to you this NBA BAL podcast.
Great to have you here, Muqbil. Joining us on the line from Cape Town, South Africa, is the captain of the Cape Town Tigers basketball team, Pieter Prinsloo. Pieter, thank you for joining us on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Pieter, the Tigers just recently completed their debut appearance in the Basketball Africa League in Cairo. Can you talk about the overall experience for you and the Tigers?
I know, obviously, this was now a good opportunity for us to gauge the level of competition. Obviously, it's an honor for everybody to play in the BAL. There's, only 12 teams in the whole continent that's playing. But, for us, it really gave us a good outside of what's to come and what we have to prepare for the playoffs in Kigali. You see the level of talent that's being brought by all the teams, and we understand that we have to get better and do things like that. But, it was a good way to get some of these guys ready, especially in terms of our national players who haven't maybe stepped on a court with that level of competition. So now everybody really has a gauge of what level they need to play at for us to be successful.
Awesome. Follow-up question, Pieter. What type of changes do you think that you all will have to implement in the playoffs? And what do you feel like you guys have learned that you can potentially use moving forward in the playoffs?
I think we've learned that when we play together as a team, we move the ball and, we play proper basketball. We're a great team. Those are the stretches that we've shown so far where we play maybe 20 to 25 minutes of good basketball out of the 40. But then we've learned that when we become a selfish team and, guys force up quick shots or we don't move the ball and get stagnant, that we make life a lot harder for ourselves. So, we know we got to work on things like that when we go back home. Now we're here, guys can start focusing on that when we start our training again to really stay within a unit, because when we do play our style of basketball, we can, compete with anybody. When we become real individualistic and, people don't share the ball, everybody, just holds on to it, then it's bad basketball. So those things are kind of what we need to focus on, because at this point we know that we also, if we are not going to rebound the ball, we're not going to win games. We saw that a couple of our games were really weak on the offensive glass. I believe our last game, they got 30 offensive rebounds. And so we understand that we have to become a better rebounding team collectively, because otherwise we're not going to be able to succeed at a higher level.
Pieter, the Tigers were a debut team in Cairo, and one of the teams you played, FAP, maybe more experienced. They've been around. They played last year in the BAL. And some of these teams have been around a long time, like Zamalek. They've been around for over 50 years. Cape Town, relatively new team in terms of formation. Can you talk a little bit about maybe the following you have in Cape Town as a new team?
So, that's, in South Africa, basketball isn't the biggest sport out of everything. So it's been a real process from management, a lot of marketing to broadcast the team and, get people aware that there's a professional basketball team here in Cape Town now that plays in the BAL. And we've now collectively over the last year with the qualifiers and now actually, making the playoffs for BAL, seen a big rise in the amount of people that's following us in the community, arriving to a good reception today at the airport where people were waiting for us. So, we've seen a steady growth in the fan base for the basketball, and that's been part of the mission of this club to really create awareness of the sport and actually build a whole basketball community where kids know that there's a future for them if they want to play the sport.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Pieter, you've had an extensive professional career, having played in Latin America and Africa. My question to you would be, how's the energy level been in Cairo in comparison to the other places that you've played in?
No, I mean, obviously, you're still affected by COVID times. When you're playing, it's a huge arena, so it would be sometimes if a full arena like that is completely full of people, then it makes a big difference. But the whole basketball energy, it's such a high level of talent. Guys that are very high. Guys that former NBA players. G League guys. They really have a influx of talent that's along with all the African talent that we have on the continent. So it's a very high level of basketball, and you have to be focused every game. So certain countries overseas, I've had great fan bases, but this level of basketball is arguably outside of Champions League the highest that I've seen in my career.
Pieter, the Basketball Africa League kind of changed its format for its second season. Last year, basically a compressed 2-week schedule in Kigali, Rwanda, and this year 3 phases. The league started off in Senegal, and then it moved to Egypt, and it will wind up with the Basketball Africa League playoffs in Rwanda. Do you like that format, that kind of tiered approach to the league?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the league is still adjusting after COVID. Last year it was a complete bubble. This year, similarly, still, besides being able to move around in the hotel, you're still in a bubble. So I feel like the COVID, pandemic not completely being finished still has an impact. But it's good. I mean, obviously for the sport, if they can have multiple hubs each year, and increase it. So this year was 2. Maybe next year, say 4 or 6 hubs where they're playing games before, you move to a playoff location like Kigali, because obviously with the facility and the arena they've built in Kigali, it's an amazing site to play basketball. So have more features in different big cities across Africa based on, your teams that did better the season before, and then, grow from there, because that's why it's just going to reach a bigger community of people.
Absolutely. Pieter, knowing that you all are going to be playing U.S. Monastir in the playoffs, and them having had a really good run and making it to the finals last year, what types of adjustments are you guys looking into, or what's the feeling from the team, and knowing that when you guys play your type of basketball, you can play up against anybody, but what is the morale level, and how are you guys feeling going into that game?
Oh, no, I mean, guys, we're coming into this, with all expectations to walk out of there with a W. We understand that with the talent that we have on this team, if we put it together properly for 40 minutes, it's going to be hard for any team to beat us. We understand what Monastir, the team has a history. I played in Tunisia for a tiny bit in 2016, so I saw the level of competition out there. And no, obviously they've been around for a while. They play together, a very, good system similar to, your European basketball where everybody can play. They get the ball to their bigs. So we understand that this is a disciplined team and that we have to, play good basketball. We can't come in there making, stupid mistakes and, forcing things because that way, against teams like that, you get hurt. They move the ball well. They play team defense. They rebound as a unit. They make smart plays. They don't try and do too much. And that's, a reason why they've been so successful in Africa and within Tunisia in the last, I don't know how many. I know the club's been around for quite some time. So we understand that it's going to be a tough matchup, but that now we really have 4 weeks to focus on the things that we did bad in Egypt. We've seen, where we're weak and where we're good, and just, lock in and try and key in that we can put 40 minutes of basketball like that together.
I'm VOA's Sonny Young. We're talking with Pieter Prinsloo, the captain of the Cape Town Tigers basketball team. The Tigers recently completed their Nile Conference campaign, and they have qualified for the Basketball Africa League playoffs in Kigali, Rwanda. I'm joined here in Studio 10 by Muqbil Yabarow. Pieter, looking ahead to Kigali, have you played in the Rwandan capital before?
No, that is one place I haven't been yet. So, it's going to be good. I've heard about how amazing the facility is, but, it's going to be a first for me as well.
Okay, okay.
And yeah, Peter, for the grassroots development of basketball in the continent of Africa, we all know that the continent of Africa has some of the most talented athletes ever, and basketball and the NBA has had its fair share of African players. But now knowing that they're taking this type of a approach, having some of these younger players, some as young as 15 years old, playing in this tournament, what are your thoughts on that? On them investing this into the continent?
I mean, I think it's an amazing thing. Like we said, we've all seen NBA players from Africa within the NBA, but now you can really use this to, at a young age, groom talent. And now, similar to how EuroLeague works, and guys that are 19 in EuroLeague getting drafted, that's been playing. Guys like Luka Doncic have been playing in EuroLeague since they're 16, 17 years old. Now you give an opportunity for guys in Africa to get the same looks. So now you have young talent here that can be taken over to the NBA that sometimes would have been missed because this kid never had a chance to play, in front of the right people. So you're also looking at potentially a league that in 5 to 10 years from now that could be on the same level as the NBA and even bigger than EuroLeague. So, it's an amazing thing that they're doing that, because now they're giving just a new platform for these kids to be seen, and it's going to just keep promoting the, growth, the overall growth of the sport, because now people are really going to invest into basketball at a younger age, and it's just going to keep growing all the communities over the continent.
Peter, if we can segue briefly to the NBA, the league is currently holding the first round of its playoffs here in the United States at various locations. One of the hot topics, who should be the most valuable player? I think a lot of people think it's going to come down to Joel Embiid, the Cameroonian star, or Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets. Who do you think should be the NBA most valuable player?
I mean, I might be a little biased on this one based on where I grew up in the United States. Me, even though I am South African, I grew up the majority of my school years in the United States, starting with sixth grade, through university. And I'm a Philadelphia 76ers fan. So I got to give it to Embiid. I got to. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, Nikola Jokic, there's a good argument for it, but Embiid, especially lately over like the last 15 games, he was just going crazy. And, you see what he's doing in the playoffs right now. I feel like he's just this year meaning more the way the Sixers are playing.
Yeah, no, I would definitely have to agree with you on that one. Yeah, Joel, especially what he did last game. Yeah, he's definitely played MVP caliber basketball. To also keep it on the NBA, one of my favorite guys happens to be on the losing end of of that series at the moment. Masai Ujiri is such a brilliant mind when it comes to basketball, and what are your thoughts on what he's been able to do with the Toronto Raptors organization and what he's doing on the continent as well, trying to expand the game?
I mean, no, what he's doing personally, like the turnaround that he's had, and even if you look at the current roster, the way the draft picks they're taking, the talent they're grooming, and, the signings they make, he's an incredible GM. I mean, what he's done, he brought a championship to Toronto. I don't think anybody would have possibly expected that at any given moment. Most guys don't want to go live in Canada, to go play there. They want to stay in the United States. So, it's harder for them to, look as a free agent, fight all the time. But, what he's been able to do through them drafting the right players, making the right trades, and, being able to sign good players, it's incredible. And I mean, obviously for the continent of Africa, having somebody like that investing their time, it just means so much for the sport. Now you have a guy who's been highly successful at, doing what he does and creating these opportunities and, being a smart-minded basketball person, if he's really into, grooming and growing the whole basketball community in Africa and really expanding the sport, it's going to be successful.
Peter, you mentioned growing up in the USA, playing some college basketball here in the USA. Getting back to the Tigers, they have an American ownership group. Can you talk about maybe the Tigers owners? Are they supportive of the club and this inaugural Basketball Africa League campaign?
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, we have very, hands-on owners. We all know who they are. So it's an ownership group out of the United States, 2 men and 2 women. And it's really, their vision is to grow this, sport here in South Africa. They've seen, for them, they understand what basketball in South Africa could be. And they really want to, grow a community here where people are, following the sport. Now young kids are starting to, they've got a juniors team and a women's team and everything else. So our owners are highly supportive and highly invested into the sport here, especially because they understand what, platforms Africa could bring, maybe potentially being a hub for one of the, windows of BAL every year. So, no, our owners are great in that aspect. They make sure that they bring in the right talent for what we need to do to play our style of basketball. And, at this point, I don't think anybody can, even remotely not say how amazing a job they've done with Cape Town Tigers for a club that was just formed 2 years ago to be playing the BAL already. It's incredible.
Pieter Prinsloo is the captain of the Cape Town Tigers basketball team. Pieter has been speaking with us from Cape Town, South Africa. And Pieter, thank you for joining us here on the Voice of America. We appreciate your time.
No, thank you very much for having me tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pieter.
All right.
Well, as we look at back on some of Pieter's comments, Muqbil, sounds like he's a fan of Joel Embiid.
I would definitely have to agree. Knowing any African that's been able to play on a high level, seeing what Joel Embiid is doing is honestly super inspiring for the hundreds and thousands of kids that are back home on the continent and in the diaspora as well. Just showing them that they can too, play on that elite level.
As we look back at the Nile Conference games, Muqbil, Zamalek playing in front of its home fans in Cairo had a great run there. 5 consecutive victories. They beat Petro de Luanda, the very proud Angolan squad, pretty convincingly. And now they go to Rwanda to defend their Basketball Africa League trophy. At this point, is there a team that can topple them in Kigali?
Honestly speaking, the way that they've played, especially in this conference, seeing exactly what they've been able to do, everything's been convincing. As you said, the closest game that they had was against Petro, and that in and of itself was still a 13-point victory. So they were able to cruise by. I would say Rwanda Energy Group might give them a good run for their money. I really like that team. I really like what they've been able to do. Their team chemistry flow. They only had 1 loss in the Sahara Conference, so it's gonna be fun. And Monastir definitely is looking for blood after last year. So
I like that.
So we're gonna see if they're gonna be able to get their revenge from last year.
And as Pieter Prinsloo said, Muqbil, it's really going to take 40 minutes of complete basketball for the Cape Town Tigers to beat Monastir in the playoffs.
Absolutely. And honestly speaking, though, I think it's going to take 40 minutes from everybody. It's going to be one of those because it's not the knockout phase anymore. So now at this point, when you're in the playoffs, you're going to have to give it 40 minutes. If it goes in overtime, a little bit more than that, but you definitely have to do everything. You can't let any quarter go without giving it your all. And I feel like a lot of these teams that are going to be in the playoffs, they know what's at stake. Just because they're ranked the fourth seed coming into it doesn't mean that they're going to give the first seed the automatic victory. It's going to be a very, very difficult game throughout the entirety of the playoffs. I don't see it being a cakewalk for anybody.
Now, one of the teams making its debut, but they did not advance, was Cobra Sport of South Sudan. And I watched their first game and I thought, wow, this team could really make an impact. Lots of talent, but it's competitive. It's a competitive league, and they ended up not advancing. But I was, really really impressed with how they put out their 15-year-old center on the court, one of these ball elevate players, Muqbil, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the young players who got a chance to gain some experience in Cairo.
Absolutely. I feel like for any of the players that were able to get on the court at such a young age, 15 years old, 7-footer, he's a boy playing amongst men, but at the same time, that's the level of experience that you need to hone on in order for you to be groomed to be able to play on that next level. They say you can teach a lot of things, but you can't teach height. So when you got a kid that young that's 7 foot, he has so much upside, and him playing in this tournament is just one of those signs. As for that Cobra Sports team, I really liked Mayan Kier and Wang as well.
Yep.
Two phenomenal players. With the one victory that they had, showed us the level of talent that this team has when they're clicking. That was a desperation game for them because at the time I believe they'd had 2 losses. They didn't want to go down 0-3. They really gave it their all, but then maybe they got a little bit lax after that victory. But they definitely have ample skill, and it's going to be exciting to see those players in the near future.
And, listening to Pieter Prinsloo earlier, he kind of touched on maybe some of the imports that come onto the team. He mentioned sharing the basketball. And sometimes, that they might sign an American player right before the tournament starts. Maybe they'll have 2 or 3 days to sort of acclimate with the team. And yet, if you come in there as a new guy and you kind of hog the ball, per se, that usually doesn't go over well with your teammates.
It definitely doesn't. The reason why I like teams like the Zamaleks of the world or the Petro de Luandas are because they have team chemistry, right? A lot of these guys, especially with that Petro team, right? They've been playing together for nearing a decade,
Yeah,
some of these players, right?
Long time.
And those are the type of things that you just can't teach when it comes to basketball. Team chemistry is so important. And when you look at some of these other teams that do have these imports, and they've only been there for a couple of days, some of them a few weeks prior to starting the entire tournament, and you expect these guys to do what? Because they have played on a higher level to be able to come in and just whisk away the game. That's not how this works. This is a team effort. It doesn't matter if this person played in the NBA. A lot of these players have played in the NBA, but it's been a while since they played in the NBA.
Right.
They may,
I think of like Ike Diagu.
Absolutely, or like DJ Strawberry as well, right?
Right.
They may have lost a step, so it's not like this is a NBA player that is in their peak prime shape that can take over any game, that can play amongst any other 4 players and just win or just will their team to win. So you're still going to have to play within that team environment and get the ball, move, just keep the ball moving, get everyone else involved, and then you see where it goes from there.
One player for Zamalek, very impressive in Cairo, was Anas Mahmoud. Played college basketball like Pieter Prinsloo here in the USA. And watching him on the court in Cairo, Muqbil, you don't have to necessarily score a lot of points to be effective. There was one game where I think he blocked 7 shots for Zamalek. He is such a force near the basket that, he can have an impact maybe without putting the ball in the basket.
The thing I like about Mahmoud's game is that he is he's so amazing on both sides of the floor. A lot of players don't necessarily take pride on the defensive end, right? They will come and give you 25 to 30 points, but on the defensive end, they might be a liability, right? Whereas for him, it seems as though he actually enjoys playing defense more than he enjoys playing offense. So
right.
so that to me shows a player who's willing to sacrifice himself, his body for his team, and get a block shot on one side and go get an alley-oop dunk on the other side. He's averaging 10 and 10 right now, but he does so much more. A lot of his intangibles, just being as big as he is, and he's so amazing on both sides of the floor. I really like what he's been doing for the team.
Muqbil, you mentioned Mayan Kier for Cobra Sport. I really liked him too. He's got an NBA body, really. I mean, just very powerful player. One player for the Tigers I really liked, Ganapamo, Evans Ganapamo. He had a game-winning shot. I think it was against FAP, a three-pointer right at the end. And Prinsloo, he was effective, especially in the last game. They didn't win, but I think he had 21 points. And so they'll be looking to Prinsloo, I think, to provide that veteran leadership in Kigali.
Absolutely. Just, you see, the thing about Prinsloo that doesn't necessarily show up in the box score is his level of expertise and him being a veteran, having played in so many different environments, right? So sometimes when you have a player that plays maybe only American-style basketball, then that's all you really know. But this man has played in Latin America, all over Africa. As he mentioned, he played in Tunisia for some years. And that in and of itself is the level of experience, because he knows how basketball is played on so many different levels. You have so many players that are playing in this tournament that are from all over. They've played basketball everywhere. So he will be that guy who will be the floor general, who will assist his team in knowing what adjustments that they need to make, what they need to do, play that selfless type of basketball that the Tigers know that they can play for 40 minutes, and I think they can beat anyone.
Looking ahead to Kigali, Muqbil, any maybe surprise teams to watch out for in the tournament?
FAP?
FAP.
I liked FAP last year. I still like them this year. I don't know what it is about the team that when they're clicking, they really are clicking. It's just a very fun type of basketball that they play. A lot of younger players. So I'm excited to see what it is that they do. They're going to be coming in fourth into the postseason. So it's going to be interesting to see. I believe they should be going up against Rwanda Energy Group if it's 1-4, I think.
And they're another one of these, been around a long time. I think they're celebrating their 50th anniversary of their founding. So they go back a few years.
Yeah, they do. So I'm really excited. I'm also very interested to see how Petro does in the playoffs. They played a really, really good every game that they played was flawless up until they ended up playing Zamalek. So I'm interested to see what they'll do on the other side if they go up against, I don't know, U.S. Monastir team or Rwanda Energy Group, or if they end up seeing Zamalek as well. It's going to be interesting to see how they respond to that. It just seems like they're always one step away from just getting to that, that next level.
So final question, Muqbil, do you think the excitement level in Cairo during the Nile Conference was higher than what we saw in Senegal?
I would say yes, just because the Egyptian fans have known basketball for so long, and they've been winning basketball for such a long time that they almost create this football, like soccer type of feel in there.
Right.
It's not like you're watching a basketball game when you see their fans. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what they do. I'm really excited about the Kigali tournament, Kigali side for the playoffs, because as we've seen last year, what they were able to do, and the fans are super exciting. So we'll see how it's going to be. Playoffs will be amazing.
Muqbil Yabarow joining me here in Studio 10. Thanks also to my producer this evening, Downtown Daniel Brown. And I'm VOA's Sonny Young, coming to you from Studio 10. Thank you for joining us for this special Voice of America Basketball Africa League podcast.